Hi there, I'm John from CNCKing.com, and today we'll talk about different material options when it comes to custom stenciling. When it comes to making custom stencils, we can literally make them out of any material. There are a couple caveats, meaning that if you want it out of, let's say, corian, which is roughly 1/2 inch or 18 millimeters thick in general, it takes a lot longer and it costs a lot more to produce than, let's say, a very thin acrylic like this. Now, some applications need something that's heavy duty or something that's specialized, and other custom applications are just fine with basically plastic. When it comes to plastic, we make them out of polycarbonate generally, but here the customer actually had the acrylic on hand and sent it to us. And this is roughly 2 mil or 1/16 thick acrylic. Nothing special about the acrylic. It doesn't matter if it's cast or extruded. For this application, all we're doing is laser cutting through it here. And the reason why you see like looks a little bit dirty or whatever you want to call it, the masking on it, is just to protect the surface from scratches. Again, it's not an issue that we have with stenciling because who cares what the scratches are like. The point is that you want to go through it. Something to keep in mind with all stencils, regardless of the material, is you always want to have little support materials. Here, and for the nose. And the reason for that is because if we don't have this inside part just doesn't float there, it actually falls out. When it comes to acrylic, this job is really nice because you want to have nails, and it's sort of like a half and half. Sometimes I send them with the masking on it, sometimes I take it off, but as you can see, it comes right off. And the advantage to polycarbonate or acrylic that's clear like this is that obviously you can see straight through it. Now that helps for positioning. We do some projects for commissioned artists, and it really helps them when they do their stenciling on, say, on brick, and they need to be a little bit more specific as to the location. And that is why, there we go, it's coming off. That's why having something that's transparent or semi-transparent is really useful. Acrylic is also pretty easy to clean. You just don't want to use methyl hydrate or acetone or any harsh detergents because they'll literally melt or crack the acrylic. So as I'm taking this masking off, it's not the easiest masking to remove. And again, for stenciling, it doesn't really matter because you're spraying or sponge painting or however you're doing it through the holes. The surface quality really doesn't matter whatsoever, as you'll see. And here is one little piece here. So as you see, fingernails are useful, and you can see completely, this one's semi-transparent. It's got a bit of a gloss to it, but if you put it straight on a wall or something like that, you know exactly where the stencil will be happening. Let's say you want to spray paint some stuff on asphalt, and a nice material for that is actually plywood. In this case here, it's it's a 1/4 inch or 6 millimeters thick plywood, and I just painted it. I have 2 different kinds of plywood, as you'll see why soon. And the nice thing about a plywood stencil is that it lasts for a long time. It's very easy to spray. You can use it outdoors even if it's very hot or very cold. And unlike polycarbonate or acrylic, storage generally for this stuff here is a one-time use. So let's say you're doing a whole parking lot and you're putting handicap signs onto the pavement. Generally what we do is end up using plywood, and then they spray it. At the end of the day, they burn it or they throw it out, whatever they want to do with it. Now let's say you're having a school fundraiser and you like the idea of using plywood, but you're a little bit concerned about getting splinters and that kind of stuff off rough plywood. In that case there, what we can do is use actually a nice plywood. As you can see, that's the inside part here. So it's more of a solid wood plywood, while this one here is just really rough construction plywood. The difference is it has a lot less splinters. Either way, we use the industrial laser that's behind me here to cut out the stencil. But if you wanted it, depending on the material, we can use the water jet. If you're cutting, let's say, stainless steel stencils, or if you want something out of a little bit thicker material where the focus doesn't work very well with the laser, then we use our industrial router for that. Now let's say you only need to stencil about 5 or 6 different little items, and you want something that's very cheap, cost effective, and it doesn't matter that after 5 or 6 times it's roughly finished. In that case there, generally we use 1/8 or 3 millimeters thick MDF. MDF does soak up the paint, so eventually all these little things here end up getting filled up, which is why I don't suggest using it for parking lots and that kind of stuff. Especially if it gets wet, it just starts to warp on you. But if you're doing just a very small volume of stenciling, this is a really cost-effective and really nice material. The one downside to it, of course, is that you can't see through it. But everything has a plus and a minus when it comes to custom stenciling. Now I do have customers that want custom stencils, but it'll be a one-time use, and they want the cheapest stencil they could possibly get. In that case, their MDF is still too expensive, so then what we do is generally cut it out of cardboard. The nice thing about cardboard is you could maybe do 2 or 3 sprays. You could spray it pretty well. The problem is it sucks up the spray. Any kind of surface is not totally flat. So again, as you go cheaper and thinner material, generally speaking, you end up having more issues with the spray paint. But if you're just doing rough stuff for around the city on lampposts or that kind of stuff, cardboard is totally fine. It's very easy to throw away, burn, whatever you want to do it, and it can actually be recycled. Wood generally goes to a fire pit. Corian or stainless steel can be recycled as well. So let's take a look at little cardboard stencils being made. I've already shown a ton of videos of water jet cutting various different kind of metals. Let's say you're interested in a metal. Generally what we do is 1/16. You go to 1/8 or 1/4 inch or 1/2 inch or 1 inch or 2 inch if you want, if you have the money for it, and also the strength, because the thicker the metal, the heavier it becomes. That's one thing that's sort of nice about MDF, and especially polycarbonate. Polycarbonate literally weighs nothing. You just got to be very careful when you put it on something that you make sure that's totally flat, because polycarbonate is not, it is flat, but it's not totally flat because it's such a thin. That's maybe what, 1/32 thick, which is a fraction of a millimeters. So if you want a custom stencil made, it's really nice if you give me an idea of what you'll be using it for, and then right away I know exactly what material to use, and then from there we just make the stencil and ship it out. We ship wherever the mailman goes, via FedEx, DHL, UPS, USPS, whatever you want, we do it.